One of the things I think is so important for us to understand is you can determine the outcomes in your life. Especially as Christians, we have this incorrect notion that God's just going to do what he's going to do and things are just going to happen the way they're going to happen and things are just going to play out the way they play out. All right. There's a problem with that. And I get it. It sounds good, noble and Christian-y and like all the things, but it's actually not how things work. You're actually more in control than you realize. This is not a life where we're just along for the roller coaster ride and whatever happens, happens. And if something horrible happens, that was God's will. And if something good happens, that was his will. If, man, we lived broke and poor our whole lives, that was God's will. And if we got wealthy, that was God's will. No, you actually can determine your own outcomes. And it actually lines this out very clearly multiple times through the word. I think the problem is when we read things like this, we don't take them into context and be like, oh, God's trying to get a principle over to me. God's trying to show me how things work in the kingdom. He's trying to give me these laws to follow that bring success. We just read them as like words on a page sometime, like this is a history book. But it's actually, remember the new covenant, all right? The New Testament, the new covenant. A covenant is just your agreement that you have with God. It's what belongs to you now that you've been made right in his eyes because of what Jesus did. Not performance-based, but you have everything it says you can have here in this covenant. We're in the new covenant now. It's where we live. So listen to this. You can determine your own outcomes. Look at Galatians 6, verse 7. I got at least two scriptures for you here. Galatians 6, verse 7. Do not be deceived. So don't let it fool you. What I'm about to say is extremely true. God is not mocked. For whatever a man sows, like a seed, like he plants, that he will reap. Whatever you sow is what you're going to reap. That law is irrevocable. It's just how it is. And it works in the positive and it works in the negative. Most of us are operating that law in the negative. There are also multiple places in the Bible that talks about the types of seeds you can sow. Mark 4 tells us that the sower sows the word. 2 Corinthians 9:6 says you can sow finances as a seed as well. So you can sow God's word, you can sow finances, and then there's other scriptures that talk about sowing your deeds and your actions. So that's how we sow seeds. And it says in verse 7, don't be deceived, God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that is what he will reap. So again, if you're going to sow your words, what you speak is going to determine the harvest that you get. This puts you in control. If you are going to use these laws that God's given us, if you're going to use them intentionally, you just simply need to understand them and then activate them, operate in them. Too many times, Christians just let things happen to us and we just think it's God's will. It's not God's will. He's up there like, hey, I told you, you're going to have what you say. So why do you keep saying, I'm getting sick? Why do you keep saying, oh, there's layoffs at my company? It's just a matter of this, that. Okay, I froze for a second. I'm back. Yesterday, my daughter, I was helping her with her math. Okay, helping her with the math homework. And she says, there's like a section that she's learning right now, new math stuff, fractions and compound fractions. And she's like, oh, I'm so bad at this. And so I corrected her. We got it figured out, went to the next section, and she goes, oh, I'm so bad at these two. And I was like, hey, first off, let's change what we're speaking. And she's heard me say this stuff before, but we need to be reminded. So I said, hey, let's change the way you're speaking about this. Let's say I'm getting better at it. Every time I do one of the problems, I'm getting better. And so she said, she's like annoyed. She's like, okay, I'm getting better at compound fractions. Well, she did the very first one And a light bulb went off on her head. And she goes, oh, I get it now. I thought you did it. I see how it all works. And then she just went boom, 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 and answered all of them super easy. Gets to the next section, and she goes, oh, but this part. And I was like, change your words. Again, she was annoyed at me. And she was like, I'm getting better at this too. And then exact same thing happened. Like problem number 2 in that section, she was like, oh, I get it. Everything clicked for her all of a sudden. She gets done and she looked at me and I go, what was the difference? And she was like, I guess it was my words. And I was like, yeah, you went from saying this is hard and you're bad at it to I'm getting better at this. Every time I do one, I get better. And then all of a sudden, this thing that's been, blocking her up got lifted. And it shifted how she saw her math homework. Okay. Like seemingly small example, but imagine if she takes that mindset into everything she does from now on. Imagine if us adults could grasp that concept. So let's look here at Matthew 12. And Jesus is talking, and he's basically confirms this law, but in a slightly different way that's going to make it very real to you, okay? Matthew 12. For whatever is in your heart determines what you say. What's in your heart determines what you say. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart. An evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. And I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you, justify you, or condemn you. That's how powerful your words are. That's crazy. Your words are what justify or condemn you. And out of your treasury of a good heart, you produce. One translation says, you fling forth that which is in your heart. And right before that, what did it say? It said, you speaking is what kicks it all off. So you have the power to determine whatever outcome you want in your life. If you want a different outcome financially, you have to change the words that you speak. But what's the step right before that? Jesus told us in Matthew 12:34, he says, what's in your heart determines what you say. All right, so let's listen to this. Let's go to Proverbs 4:23. You guys getting this? Hope you're getting this. Guard your heart. You see how this plays together? Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. Your heart determines the course you're going to take. That's huge. That's why I said you've got to guard it. All right, so put these pieces together. Guard your heart, like what you're allowing in. If you're allowing in a lot of negativity, you listen to a bunch of cussing, and you watch movies you shouldn't be watching, like you let that stuff in, determines the course of your life. Why? Because Matthew 12:34, Jesus said, what's in your heart is going to come out of your mouth, and what comes out of your mouth is what you produce. You fling forth what comes out of your mouth. Listen to what I'm describing. This isn't crazy. This is exactly how God operates. He spoke the world into existence. He spoke it, and it became true. This is exactly how you're operating. You just may not have realized it. And you may not be as intentional with this law as you could be or should be. If I was you, I would be taking the time to intentionally sow the word seed that I want the harvest of. For instance, I took some time today, and I do this every day, but there's something special. I just took like some extra time, and I spoke some extra word seed over my 3 daughters and who they're going to marry one day. Now they're young. Their ages 3, 7, and 9. 4, 7, and 9. And I just took some time and I was like, they are going to marry the men that God has picked out for them. God's lining it up right now. They're going to be amazing men of God. Oh, they're going to be honorable. They're going to be plugged into their church. They're going to be men on a mission. Man, they're not going to be losers. They're going to be good looking. They're going to be awesome. And they're going to be a great addition to our family. I'm just intentionally speaking and sowing the seed of the harvest I want. What's happening? I'm determining our outcomes. You speak life over your finances. If you're speaking things like, man, I just want just enough to pay my bills, that is the outcome you will have. A lot of you guys are still living paycheck to paycheck because that's all you're believing for. It's all you're speaking. It's all that's in your heart. It's all that's coming out. And we started this, for those of you who hopped on later, we started this in Galatians 6:7. It says, hey, don't be tricked. Don't be deceived. Whatever you sow is what you will reap. And we talked about how in Mark 4, it says the sower sows the word. Sowing is just another word for planting. You're like a farmer. You're planting seeds. Whatever seeds you plant is the harvest you're going to get. If you plant financial seeds, you'll get a financial harvest. If you don't, you won't. You can also sow your words. You can also sow deeds and actions. There's scriptures for each of those things. So we're taking the time and we're being intentional. What outcome do you want? Man, is your marriage not where you want it to be? Man, maybe your kids' grades. Again, y'all watch the replay. I told a cool story of helping my daughter with her math and how we just changed her words and it changed her outcome. It changed how she saw the math problems, and then now everything was clicking for her. Okay. Adults need to get this. We need to get this, and we need to get it quick. You need to take some time today and look at the categories of your life and see where you're not having a harvest that you like. I don't like the outcomes here. I want my marriage to not just be good. I want it to be amazing. I want it to be like we're newlyweds again. Okay, what seeds do you need to sow? There's words you can sow, finances you can sow, and actions. Of those three, Matt needs to sow all three. Maybe it's one. Get it dialed in and let's be intentional. I'm going to start speaking over my business. My business has been struggling. Guess what? I don't say that anymore. About my business struggling, the more it stays struggling. I'm going to start sowing seeds of increase. I'm going to start sowing seeds of the outcomes I actually want in my life. This life is not just God's going to do what he's going to do. And whatever happens, happens. If I'm rich, I'm rich. If I'm poor, I'm poor. If I'm sick, I'm sick, whatever. That's just God's plan and his will. And there's nothing I can do about it. Nope. You're going to get your butt kicked if you live that way. You're living incorrectly. What's actually happening is the devil has come into your life and he's having a heyday with you. And you're just saying, oh, it must be God. You're giving God credit for stuff the devil's doing to you. So you're not fighting back. You're not doing anything. But James 4:7 says, submit to God. So you need to know his voice. And then it says, resist the devil. He'll flee from you. Ephesians 6 says, put on the armor of God and resist him. Stand firm against him. There's another one in Corinthians says something similar. 1 Peter 5:8 says something similar. Resist the devil. Stand firm against him. Fight back against him. You got to fight. You got to fight the good fight of faith. That's what that's talking about. You got to lay hold of what's lay hold of you. So there's action to this. There's aggressiveness to this. I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to get out in front. I'm going to go on the offense here. That's what I'm trying to get you guys to do. Stop living on defense. Stop playing not to lose, but you need to be playing to win. Hey, Paul said that. Paul said that in 1 Corinthians 9. He said, run your race as one who wins. Strip off every weight that's slowing you down and get after it. To win, you got to get out in front. Most of us are playing not to lose. We're playing let's just finish this race so I can go to heaven. I said this on our Bible study yesterday, which if you're not on, you need to get on those Bible studies. Thursdays at 10:30. I put links everywhere. If you need the link, just message me. I'll get to you. We said this. God, you guys know this, right? Like, God doesn't need you in heaven. You're going to go to heaven. You'll get there when you get there. It's going to be great. You're going to do awesome stuff there. But he actually needs you down here doing things for his kingdom. We're in God's army. We're deployed down here. We're on a mission. We're on assignment. We got stuff to do for him. Let's get after it. Use these principles he's given us to live a great life and do awesome things for him. Very clear. It's very concise. I just laid it out for you. Guard your heart. Don't let junk get in there. Don't let unbelief get in there. Don't let negativity get in there, because what's in your heart is what you're going to speak. That was Proverbs 4:23. Connected it to Matthew 12:34. Jesus says what's in your heart is coming out your mouth, and what comes out your mouth determines what you have. We tied it into Galatians 6:7. Says if you speak that, don't be deceived. You're going to get it. Who knows that person? Not you, no one watching this, but who knows that person who always talks about getting sick, always coming down with something? Don't let that be you. Let's be talking about how things are always getting better. Let's be talking about how things are turning around. Let's be talking about how increase is here. Let's be talking about abundance and prosperity and winning. Let's be talking about strategies and ideas that God's given us, plans to prosper us, plans to give us a future and a hope. I mean, that scripture in Jeremiah 29:11, right? You've heard it. I've got plans to prosper you, not to harm you. Yet, there's all this harm in our life, businesses going under, financial stress, all these things, people getting sick, and we're saying that's God. Yeah, stop. Man, just read this a little bit. Get in your new covenant, New Testament, read a little bit of it. It'll change your mind. You'll see it. Oh, God's not making anybody sick. God's not making anybody poor. Everything he did in here is either heal people or got them money. Like every blessing is healing somebody, or go fish on this side of your boat, go cast your net over here, and enough fish is going to come up that you don't have to work for a while. The Elijah and the widow woman, hey, miracle, jar of oil, over and over again, pours those jars of oil. Go sell it, and then you and your kid can live off of it. It's like, look at how this works, guys. Look at how this works. Let's rethink this. You can determine the outcomes you want in life. This book tells you how to do it. I just gave you one of the principles that you can follow if you need to change an area. So be intentional today. Take some time today. Okay? Take some time. Say, God, what areas do I need to improve upon? And what new seeds do I need to be sowing? I don't like where I'm at financially. I don't like my health right now. I don't like my fitness. I need to lose some weight. Man, start speaking that. You need to lose weight. God will help you lose weight. Let's determine the outcomes in our life. All right? You've got more control than you think. God has given it's not you doing it. He lives in you. That's what's doing it. It's his power working in you. Let's let him work. Let's let him do some stuff. All right. I love you guys. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate that. Thanks, Sandra. The Bible study is amazing. I enjoy doing those. Those are awesome. Those are a ton of fun. Neha, I think I'm saying your name right. Appreciate you always hopping on and your kind words as well. All right. Share this with anybody you know who needs it. Let's help some people win today. Let's determine the outcomes in our life. Let's stop just being blown back and forth by whatever comes our way and just getting our butts kicked. Okay? Sound good? Savannah, thank you. Jessica, thank you. Appreciate you guys hopping on. Appreciate the support. All right. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next one.